I remember the day when my aunt gifted me an Atari 7800, and that thing was a mini version of Atari 7800. It was Atari Flashback. And that thing, mind you, when I started playing this thing, I started respecting Atari, retro video games, and video games in general. I mean, that thing, when I started playing it, I started to know more about video games. I started to get more interested about why people are playing these old consoles when we already have something like PlayStation 2 at that time. I'm talking about way back in 2009. So in India, it was pretty much popular having a PlayStation 2 at your home, or maybe it was a PC. PlayStation 3 was really extremely expensive, so many people, only the rich kids would be having PS3. Xbox 360 would be if somebody would be a Microsoft fan, and most of the people would rather play games on PC, including me, and I still do play games on PC. That's another point, that I play games on Linux instead of Windows. But now what I'm seeing Atari of today, I have absolutely nothing but contempt. And there is a reason why. Now, in my previous video, I ranted completely and I went all in with with denigrating this Atari VCS as a $400 setup box. Now granted, there are some mistakes from my side. It was a slight clickbait, because $400 was for the entire product. The box that would be coming, Atari VCS 800, would be around $250. But that's not the point of the entire outrage that has been happening on the internet for the past weekend. The reason is something different. The reason is that people are not expecting, or people were not expecting, what has been delivered right now. Essentially, what we are being given is not even an open hybrid mini PC console kind of thing. It is a mini PC. It's simply a mini PC that runs Linux, that can run Windows, which I highly doubt, because even if you go with the high-end VCS 800 with 8 gigabytes of RAM, it's a dual-core processor. I highly doubt Windows 10 would be able to run longer than 2 or 3 months on it, because given the track that how Windows update is handling its updates and how Windows gets progressively slower as time moves on, I honestly doubt that we can use a 64-bit Windows version on that thing. And don't get me started with Atari VCS 400. You couldn't even run Windows on this thing. Even the 32-bit, it would be maxing out. It's just going to be all out. It will be maxing out. Because even if you just put out that whole system requirements from Microsoft's end, I have tried it on my IdeaPad. And Windows 10 chugs even on a fresh install compared to what I use it on Linux. Linux is still faster than what Windows is. I mean, there are a lot of engineering problems that has been happening on Windows, but that's not the point. I'm not here to rant on Windows. I'm here to rant on Atari VCS. Let's not go to that point. Let me just get back on track. If somebody's from Microsoft listening to this thing, I just want to make sure I don't hate Microsoft, but I do hate that one product, okay? I do hate Windows 10 for a pretty good reason. But let's actually get back to Atari VCS itself. Now, Atari VCS, the processor is R1606G chip, which, as I mentioned in my previous video, was a heavily debilitated processor. It's a system on a chip that barely resembles your Ryzen 3 processors and has a Vega 3 GPU, which again, as I mentioned on my previous video, was incredibly lower. And this has been said all over the internet. 0.46 teraflops on the normal mode. Haha. Vega 3 was made for very basic computing needs. So Vega 3 was not even in the ballpark as PlayStation 4, which is intended to be a dedicated gaming console. Vega 8 onwards, things were getting a lot of serious, because as I showed again in my previous video, it was having some decent amount of power. It was in its full mode not as powerful as PS4, but it was obliterating PS4 in half performance in the FP6. Was it FP60? Yeah, I think it would be FP16 performance, which would be the half performance in the 16 floor in the 16-bit floating point situations. Plus, it also had 64-bit floating point calculations, which neither PlayStation 4 nor Vega 3 had. So in that case, had Atari VCS would be shipping something with V1000 series, it would be amazing. With the same price point, that thing could be something that many people would be appreciating. Because V1000 comes with the quad-core octa-threaded systems. And that could be somewhat like your underpowered versions of Ryzen 5s and 7s. Although it wouldn't be that powerful as your U series, but still, it could have that possibility that maybe this thing could take something seriously. The U series could also have been used. That would have been even better. But considering that on their website, Atari VCS is trying to show that we want to go with this fanless approach, that's why I just went with the whole V1000. Otherwise, the best fit would have been U. Because guess what? Asus recently is planning to release PN50 mini computer series, which also, by the way, ships with the latest Ryzen U series of processors, which is very interesting. Albeit, it is slightly more expensive than VCS 800, but even if I have to choose between both of them, anybody with working mind and would be understanding how these Ryzen processors are would have picked something like PN50 with slightly more money. And that's the reason why people are not buying into it. Why people just don't think that this is an actual thing. Now, there are some fanboys who are trying to talk about it, they're trying to defend it, and most of them I don't agree with them. But there was one area where I do agree with those fanboys and Atari fans, that Atari has absolutely done nothing when it comes down to covering up this whole controversy. Atari is essentially becoming more shadier and shadier. They are trying to show that this is an open hardware and software kind of deal, which I cannot find at all. Plus, I do not know how can I configure everything, what the motherboard looks like. I don't know about the hardware aspects. As for the software aspect, I use Linux. Please don't fool me at this point. We can see where the project can go if you actually tell us. So if you would be in the department where there are people like me who are playing games on Linux and who are more aware about Linux in general, we can see that what would be the Linux project going on. And I could have thought that this could be a big thing for the Linux gaming, which again is not coming up because, come on, we are dealing with 1606G. We are not dealing with Ryzen U's or Ryzen H. We are dealing with embedded SoCs, which again, which I don't really think is going to be that powerful. What are you going to swap at best? A freaking RAM stick. And if you're calling this as an open system, then sorry to say, this is not an open system. I need something more. I need to be explained. What are you talking about the more thingy? What are you talking about this whole open thingy? I clearly don't understand. And if somebody from Atari is watching this, instead of just disliking this video and just get off from this thing, first of all, thanks for giving me that dislike because you are helping me. The other thing is, because of you guys, I actually have to think, because 8 dislikes and 1 like, god damn it, there must be something fishy going on. And if somebody from Atari is really watching this video, here's my tip. Instead of dismissing me as just another hater, consider me more like a concerned consumer. Just look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, am I right? Or this random person on the internet is right? And if you are right, think about it. If you are right, then just go forward with whatever you are doing. I'm not buying into this thing, but if it would be really cool, I would be buying this in future. But at this point of time, and given the current state, I don't think I will be buying it in any way. I would be rather buying a Raspberry Pi instead of this. So, if you think that I am right, then in that case you should be taking a long, hard look at the hardware you are manufacturing. Because there is a huge level of shadiness that is coming from this whole thing, which needs to be cleared up. And Atari, you have done absolutely nothing from that. You are banking on too much on your whole Atari tokens. You are going too much onto things that for which even the customer base is not being created. You want to create a whole economy of things which has not even been created yet. You need customers. You need people to buy into your product. And it's already coming underwhelming. People are already not liking it. People are already finding that this thing may not be the best fit. That is it from my side. I mean, I have been thinking about this for a while. I've been thinking about this for more than a week, ever since I got those first 6 or 7 dislikes and a mean comment, which has been deleted right now. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of YouTube guidelines, or maybe that guy has deleted himself because how foolish that guy looks. In either way, it's all right. It's okay. Honestly, I did care about Atari VCS. I was planning that maybe after I started earning, after graduating from my college, I would be earning some money, and then I would be buying into this thing because it looks like a very cool deal. It looks like a very cool mini PC that I can play like a console. But right now, with the current state of things, it's really not that cool. This is Apantrika from PixelTrik, signing out.